not obviously spiritual or religiously oriented place, but perhaps there's a symbolism that we could begin with in the departure terminal. Maulana Rumi says, Ey Sariban, Hengami Kuchist az Jihan, Her Lakse Sar Mikonad Toble Rahim az Asuman. He says, O caravan riders, the time is ready to depart. In every moment, the drum of departure sounds from the heavens. What he means is that we're all travelling. We're all actually in a departure land. That's what the whole dunya is, and we don't know exactly when our flight is leaving, but sooner or later there'll be somebody else here, and they may remember us or they may not, but after a certain amount of time there'll be nobody left on the face of the earth who remembers our name, and they won't care, and we'll have moved on. And this is really the essence of Islam, and I thought I'd say something about that, because very often the Holy Prophet ﷺ does speak about travelling, the life of faith as being a journey, a wayfarer. When one of the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, you rise from the hasir, from the rush mat, and we can see marks on you because you've been lying on this hard thing. Should we not spread something soft for you? And he says, what do I have to do with this dunya? My likeness with this dunya is like a man who rests for a while under a tree with a shade and then moves on. He had a very clear sense of the fact that he was in this world for a short amount of time and then he was going to move on. One of the earliest stories in English literature, which is a story told by a man called the Venerable Bede, who lived more or less at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the Dark Ages in England. Told the story of one of the ancient English people who followed pagan religions and didn't know what life was. Where are we before we come to the world? Where are we once we leave the world? And this chief was saying, it's just like me sitting in my big hall. Sometimes at night a bird flies in. You can see it by the light of the fire. It flies out by the window at the other end of the hall. And that's what our lives are. Brief period in the light, and then we don't know where it's going. We don't know where it came from. We don't know where it's going. It just moves through this life, and it's in the light briefly. Very depressing kind of pagan idea that we come from darkness and ignorance, and we go to darkness and ignorance. For a short while, our candle is burning, but sooner or later the light will go out. A lot of modern people who don't have a strong faith in the nature and the immortality of the ruh live lives under the shadow of that terrible possibility, or for them certainty, of complete annihilation. But still, the metaphor is journeying. Everybody knows, whether they believe or not, that we're on a journey. Sometimes we don't like to think about that because travelling is a nuisance. Nobody really enjoys getting their baggage checked and going through security and sitting next to who knows who, and the food is inedible, and it's always however nice they try to make it, it's always something that we'd rather not be doing. However, this is our state in dunya. The fact that we're uncomfortable in dunya is just a reflection of the fact that we're moving through it. The traveller sitting on his camel or sitting in the plane is never completely comfortable, because what we like as human beings is to sit still and to get things around us that make us feel secure. More and more dunya stuff. And the Quran describes this attitude. يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَهُ. The unbeliever thinks that his wealth is going to make him live forever. In other words, he's not on a journey, he's sitting here and he amasses more and more stuff. More and more phones, computers, clothes, cars, and he doesn't have to worry about the fact that he's still on a journey and the clock hands tick, 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 and they never go backwards. All of the seconds that they mark off, not one of them is moving backwards. And that's something that we are all in the grip of, the iron hands of the immovable pace of time. Dahar, we can't do anything about it. So we're all afraid of this. And the intelligent person is the one who goes with the flow, who learns how to adapt to being a traveller, and the one who is making the most of every individual moment rather than thinking about something that he might want to do or something that he should have done. He's making the most of every individual moment. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ says, "Kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib aw 'abir as-sabil." Be in the world like a stranger or a traveller. Everybody is that. We can't help it. Nobody gets to stop the clock. But the thing that the believer is about is recognizing the reality of that, and that if we all seek happiness, we have to find a way of being happy in this flow of time, rather than angry that we can't do anything about it and we'd like to. So the believer is the one who's a little bit like the teenager, and you see them in places like this. He's got long hair, he comes from Germany, he doesn't know what he's looking at, he doesn't know why he's travelling, he hasn't got a destination, he's got a backpack, he's looking for a cheap hotel. He's just travelling and travelling, he's enjoying it. He kind of gets a kick just out of travelling for travelling's sake. He's not really interested in staying at the 5-star hotel or buying this or buying that, he just wants to take a little bit. خف الرحال. Don't put too much on your saddle when you're travelling, because that makes the journey troublesome. Don't take too much from dunya, because you're not going to stay in it for very long. If you're intelligent, you know that all of this stuff nowadays built in obsolescence, you probably won't have most of it next year. Or if you do, people will be laughing at the strange telephone that you've got when everybody else has moved on to the iPhone 5 or whatever it is. So everything has a shorter and shorter life expectancy. So getting stuff in dunya, the pleasure is going to go faster than it did in the past. 100 years ago, a man might be really happy with his new horse. The horse might live for years and years and still be beautiful. But nowadays, if you have a car from 2 years ago, it's kind of embarrassing when you visit your friends. So even the dunya that the modern world gives us in such huge quantities, the taste of it goes very quickly. Like chewing gum. After a while, you're chewing it, but the taste is gone. The taste goes very, very quickly with the stuff that the modern world gives us. And the reason for that is that the quicker the enjoyment goes, the sooner they can sell us a replacement. The whole nature of the modern capitalistic enterprise is to get us bored with the things that we're doing so that they can charge us again for the next thing. The light bulb is the obvious example, but everything else is the same. They could design a phone that you could use for the rest of your life. After all, it's just for making telephone calls. But instead, they design it so that you're going to want to move on. Everything is fashion. The fashion industry is precisely like that. There's nothing beautiful or timeless about it, it's just fashion. So one of the English poets said, fashion is so ugly that it has to be changed every 6 months. Nothing in itself, it's just this year it's the baggy look, or this year it's the 50s look. It's all empty nonsense that somebody has invented in order to make money out of you, so that you're distracted from the fact that you're on this journey. But the believer is the one who, like the young man in the backpack, is not really terribly fussed about that, but is really enjoying the journey. And that's how we should be as believers. Of course, we have to have something for the journey. We're human beings. We have organisms. We need to eat, drink, be married, be part of the world. And we're shown that in the sunnah. The sunnah is not a way of escaping from the world. We go through the world. This is the way of Islam. But at the same time, we don't really take much from it. And if we do, we kind of laugh at it. One of the most worrying things about being with the great sheikhs is that they find dunya funny. We beginners are kind of, we like to make a little bit of progress. Maybe we're disgusted by the huge car that somebody is driving, or the huge skyscraper, or whatever crazy thing it is that our neighbour is doing. But the sheikhs and the awliya, they just think it's funny. It's just kind of the nafs, which is like a monkey or a clown just doing silly tricks. Actually, the basis of humour is laughing at what the nafs is doing. This is a facility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given human beings. Basically, when people laugh, they're laughing at the nafs doing something stupid. My own nafs or somebody else's nafs. And it's actually a very Islamic thing. Humour has always been part of teaching and the hikmah, tasawwuf traditions in Islam, because it can be really good at knocking us down to size. I remember once with my sheikh in Jeddah, we were driving along a little car, a little Mitsubishi, and we went past this huge showroom. There was Lexus and Mercedes, all those huge, stupid, expensive cars in the window, and the guy's name up in lights over the front of it. And even the name of the guy was kind of crazy, Al-Hambazaza. If you go to Jeddah, it's on the airport road. If you have an Arabic ear, that sounds like a really strange, extravagant name. So the sheikh just kind of smiled and said, if he had a name like that, it's a bit surprising that he's put it up and constantly moving. And the number of seconds left to each one of our lives is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and each time the second hand moves, it's gone. It doesn't come back. It's the sarmaya, capital of our lives. And nobody can add to it. How much you might pay, nobody can give you 5 minutes of their own lifespan. It's your own. Your umrah is no ma'lum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we do, on the face of it, it's a catastrophe. We're all heading to a muddy hole in the ground, which is still already there somewhere. The place where we're going to be buried is now in a rainforest or a park or somewhere. It's there. We don't know. It is waiting for us, but it's there. And one day that's where we'll be. When we finally hear the call and we're taken through the final curtain into the world of reality, and we're really searched, and it's waiting for us. So to overcome that, and to overcome the human desire to kind of not think about it, to buy stuff instead, which is why we get involved in dunya usually, to stop thinking about whatever it is we need to be thinking about. Instead, what we need to be doing is getting into a different mode, a different way of being, a different way of life, to be travelling light, to be enjoying our lives, not to be too fussed about where exactly life takes us, but to be doing right and good, beautiful things at every stage of our lives. That every moment, whether we're rich or poor or whatever, that doesn't matter so much, but that we're right with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the destination is one that we can be optimistic about. If we're honest with ourselves, we'll know we've got a million questions about akhirah, day of judgment, life after death, because it's designed to boggle the mind. It's hard to analogize with anything in this world. We've been told these things, and we accept them on faith. And the intelligent person is the one who prepares for the destination, who packs his bag with some kind of sense of what to expect at the other end. The hadith says, Al-Kayyisu man dana nafsahu wa amila lima ba'da al-maut. Wal-ajizu man atba'a nafsahu hawaha wa tamanna ala Allah. The intelligent person, the kayyis, the smart guy, the one who's really thinking, is the one who calls himself to account, who says, hey, what am I doing? What are you doing? What's this all about? Am I wasting my time? And works for what follows death. And the loser, al-ajiz, the useless one, the failure, is the one who follows his nafs, or allows his nafs to follow what it feels like doing, and just hopes that it will be all right after death. Tamanna Allah, just hopes that Allah will let him off.
Proceed to transfer counter at level 3 immediately. Passenger Tristan Batteries. Thank you.
The bad news is that we're going to die and that there's an end to the destination, and once the flight departs, it's not going to wait for us and we'll be forced onto the flight even if we don't want to get onto it. That's inevitable. Millions have been there before us, even the prophets have been through the departure lounge before us. Nobody is exempted from that. That's our destination. That's the yaqeen. But what we need to do is to see if we can be light-hearted, amused with ourselves, happy in this space, which is not our natural home, because we're spiritual beings, we're not designed for departure lounges, we're not quite at home with this dunya. And to see if we can find a way of being at ease, relaxed, happy with each other, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to make it a good journey, like the backpacker, who is probably, although we laugh at him, doesn't seem to be going anywhere, probably the one who has the healthiest attitude out of most of the people who you see in airports. He is probably going to laugh at the Hugo Boss and the Cartier and all of the people who are seriously looking at the new watches, probably crazy, just looking for the cheapest sandwich. It's a healthy attitude, and he's having fun with his friends, and he's having a great holiday. That's how we need to be in dunya. But dunya kind of wants to trap us with stuff that is not going to do us much good. The akhirah won't help at all. But in this world, generally, it's something that weighs us down, makes it hard for us to move with our camel because we're taking so much stuff with it. So Faz al-Mukhifun is a weak hadith, but it has a good meaning. Those who don't take much with them on the journey will reach the destination. Those are not taking the saucepan and the fridge and the microwave. They just take what they need for the journey, and then it's kind of easy, and they can enjoy the view and their friends, and it's easier. But the people with huge palaces and all of the stuff that is in the modern world, they probably have all kinds of inner traumas and difficulties, problems with their families, problems about the world, envy. It's not easy. So that's the good news. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed this deen to be the way in which we can make the most of the journey and enjoy the journey. It's the way of the believer, light-hearted, happy way. He sees what Allah gives him and he's amazed because he doesn't deserve anything. What was he before he was created? He was the dark. What was it? He don't know. He didn't make this world. He didn't make his rizq. He didn't make every breath that he takes. He didn't make the amazing stuff that Allah has filled this cosmos with, the beauty and the trees. He didn't make his spouse. He didn't make his children. All of the good things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a lot. The really important things, where human happiness is really to be found, that really make the journey pleasant, Allah just gives us those things. Alhamdulillah. Some people have tried by not having all of those things. They might be blind. They might not see the beauty of the moon. They will get a compensation for that in akhirah, and Allah will give them other things in this world. Some people may not get married, some people may not have children. This is all to do with the nafs that some people are afflicted with in dunya, which is just part of being on a journey. Things are sometimes uncomfortable. But if we have that attitude, then we can start to get out of the state of mind that so many of us as Muslims seem to be in nowadays, which is that we're kind of anxious, that we're in a state of inner turmoil. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, there was more in his life that should have stressed him out than we'll ever experience in our life. He was in this little oasis with a few believers, and the oasis was sort of munafiqeen and Jews and tribes and Quraysh who wanted to kill them all, and a few Muslims in a world of non-Muslims. Not a promising situation. We're in an ummah with 1 billion people, and there's good things as well as bad things, and our lives are healthy, and we're not in immediate danger of being beheaded by polytheists. Alhamdulillah. But he was the man who was always smiling. The hadith of Ma'bad, people used to go to look at his face because they loved his smile and the beauty that was in his face. And this is the La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, of which the Quran speaks. If you're on this journey correctly
Passenger shop call.
then
Passenger
you're
shop
in
call.
the state of
Please
wilaya,
press activation
and in that
counter at
state
satellite
there
building
shouldn't be any fear,
immediately.
and there shouldn't
Passenger
be any
shop
grief,
call. Thank you.
because we're moving through time. Khawf and raja, fear and hope. They're about the past and the future. You're sad means things didn't work out the way you wanted them to. You didn't pass the exams, you didn't do this, you didn't say that, you didn't marry so and so. But worrying about the past is kind of futile because you can't reach back into the past to change anything. And the wali says, that was maktub, that was what Allah decreed. And just says, as long as my niyyah was right in that situation, I'll move on. Rather than worrying half of his life about what he should have done, which is stupid. And the future usually doesn't turn out the way we think it's going to turn out, however well we might plan. You know, 1 million intelligent minds in the US military think that Iraq will be a particular way, and they look at it from space and they analyse the groups. It doesn't turn out the way they think it's going to turn out. The banks don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So our tadbir about the future is usually stupid as well. So this huzn, grief about the past, fear about what the future might bring, is stupid. We should just be ibn al-waqt, or bint al-waqt, in the moment. And Allah takes care of the future. And sometimes we try to put ourselves in Allah's place by saying, I will create my own future. And there's a lot of that in the modern world. Make your own future. Make your way in the world. Create a better world for yourself and for others. It's not like that. In Islam, it's about putting your foot in the next appropriate space. And where you'll be in 10 years' time, you don't know. But what you'll be called to account for is not whether your predictions or plans turned out, but whether you did the right thing in every individual situation. Because Allah is the Lord of history. He knows what will happen, He knows what has happened in some way that boggles our minds. All we need to do is to travel through the world, making the most of every individual moment, giving thanks for all of His blessings. Alhamdulillah, I'm alive. Allah's given me a soul. Allah's given me sam', absar, afida, all of these amazing things. Not just one sense, but 5 senses, and so much to see and perceive and taste, and subhanAllah, this is generosity. But the modern world isn't really into thankfulness. Shukr is dangerously close to rida, which is the opposite of the modern attitude. Rida, being contented with what you have, makes the whole capitalistic system collapse. If everybody's happy with what they've got, the banks fail. the system only keeps going and digging up the earth and making more stuff and polluting more because it manufactures desires in ourselves and dissatisfaction. The whole of the modern system is about making us dissatisfied, of making us reject rida. I aspire to more. I want this. I want that. I want. They're making money out of us and making us slaves for life, so that we work 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day. We want this. We want that. We miss family things just so that we can get more and more. Not because it's in our interests, because the more of that you do, the quicker life goes, and you look back and you say, "That was weird. What next?" Which is the situation of a lot of old people who are sorry that they work so hard. But the people who are benefiting from you working so hard are the employers, the corporations, the banks, whoever's making money out of the whole pyramid scheme that is the modern world. The believer is the one who can step outside that. That's why we would probably say that Islam is radical, but not in the conventional sense. The radical conventional sense is throwing bombs, making revolutions. Marxists did that. That's not something we invented. It's part of the logic of the modern world. The real radical is the one who goes through it kind of thinking it's funny, who goes past all of the shops and kind of chuckling, laughing not at the other people, and that's haram, but laughing at himself and what he sees in himself, sort of reaching out, I'd like to have that diamond, I'd like to have that bone, all of those little monkeys within us that want to jump out and grab those things. We should be looking at them and laughing at them. And the nafs is funny. It's a comedian. We can always have a good laugh at the nafs's expense. So that should really be our attitude in the modern world. Otherwise it's going to eat us alive. Because the modern system is increasingly mechanized, and the more machines there are, and the more computers there are doing things, smaller the role of humanity becomes, until we become just the most fallible bit of the whole system, just a small organic remnant in a global system that has turned the planet into a kind of machine. And we need to step outside that and recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ennobled us. We're not created to do clever things on laptops. We were created to worship our Lord, to know our place, to be people of family, to be people who, in an intelligent, dignified way, as men and women, walk through dunya knowing what they are, knowing what they're looking at, and giving thanks. So even if we don't have anything at all, we can say Alhamdulillah. Well, the super rich are looking at their watches and running to catch the executive jet to some other meeting that will enable them to buy a new executive jet next year, or whatever it is that is giving them high blood pressure. You can say, Alhamdulillah, afana mimma ibtalahum bih. He saved us from what he's tried them with. So, and that requires a subtle balance, because this humour is something that's not part of our nature nowadays. This joyfulness is lost. It's been lost by a lot of people, including by a lot of Muslims. The Quranic vision is about travelling in the earth and giving thanks and being amazed at Allah's signs. It's all about being wayfaring. And the more you travel in time and space, the more you see the amazing things of Allah's creation and in other people and in the situation of the richness of His creation. Had He wanted, He could have made a single atom, or two atoms, or no colours. It could have been really drab, but instead this amazing, as one of the sheikhs says, the peacock's tail opens. Allah's kawn is amazing, the interaction of His names, and this is where we've been put as the only element in existence that can really look at it and think about it. The birds and the insects and so forth, they look at it, but they don't have any capacity to conceptualize or experience wonder. Out of all the millions of species on the earth, alhamdulillah, we are the ones that can be amazed, that can be in a state of wonder. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And this is part of Allah's teaching Adam all of the names. One of the meanings of that is that we can name things, conceptualize them, and hence be amazed. And that should lift our spirits. Seeing beautiful, amazing things is what people travel for. It's what makes us happy and distracted and cheerful. If our journey is like that, then life is all holiday, really. Of course, there's hard work, because the ibadah and the things that we have to do to remind ourselves, because of our forgetfulness, to cleanse ourselves of our rubbish. We need that. We know that there's shadows inside us, always ready to grab us and to drag us into things that we can all name, but we keep kind of to ourselves. Allah loves sitr, hiddenness. We all know that we could do this or do that if only we had the opportunity. So we need to be vigilant. We do need the ibadah, and sometimes it's tough, and the rules are tough, just to protect us so that we are living in this state of lust. The basic condition of a Muslim is that outwardly he is under certain constraints, which are more severe than those of most people in today's world. But inwardly, he's a person of freedom. And this is what the Sufis of old spoke of when they spoke of Hurriya. Hurriya is a word that nowadays means freedom, which we think means freedom to do what you feel like doing. It doesn't mean that at all. That's not freedom. That just means being the puppet of the nafs. That's not being free. A puppet is not free. Instead, Hurriya, in the Sufi terminology, means being free of being the nafs's puppet. It means being autonomous. Bani Adam, Khalifatullah, the one to whom the angels can bow down, which is one of the strangest things in the Quran, and that's the reality. We have the capacity to say no to all of the basic creeds in dunya, say no to the haram stuff, and to be dignified. And only we can do that. We're the only by-few people who walk mustaqimeen, in a state of istiqamah. Everything else is low down, nourishment, pleasures, instincts, whatever it might be. We are alone in all of the preachers that we can do. And it's all really about shukr. Sa'di Shirazi says, I am happy in the world because the world is happy in its Lord. Everything is singing the praises, bilisani hali, zabani hal, singing the glory of Allah. Kullun ya'lamu salatahu wa tasbiha. Everything knows its prayer and its tasbih, and it's all beautiful. Prayer is always a beautiful thing. And see everything in the world giving thanks to its creator with its own eloquence. You can join in as well, and you can join in that chorus of happiness, of lust, of rejoicing. And we need to get those shadows out of ourselves, to get the modern traumas out of our souls, and just be simple believers. We can be successful, and we have to have jobs and be part of the reality. I'm not suggesting we go off to the rainforest. If there is any rainforest left, it's getting harder to be hermits nowadays, but that was a solution in some religions, but not in the religion of Islam, which understands that the fitrah is to be with the jama'ah, and jama'ah rahmah, that is our way. But in the crowd, solitude. Naqshbandi speak of khalwat darkhan, solitude in the crowd. Going through the crowd and everybody's looking at the duty-free, you're different. But not looking down on them. Because but for Allah's grace you would have been with them. It's not any merit of yours that you were given a different opportunity. But alone. Like the backpacker who thinks it's all a bit silly that people are picking up the duty-free watch that costs $2,000 or whatever. It's just nothing. It's just having a good time, and that's what we should be trying to do. So this is something that the Ummah has lost, this idea of travelling light, being at ease, being grateful, being relaxed. We used to be the Ummah of relaxation. In a Muslim home it was kind of expansive, people sat on the floor, they always wore comfortable clothes. Muslim clothes are always the most comfortable. If we look at the traditional styles of dress of different civilizations, Muslim clothes are always baggy and kind of just we like to relax, sit around. I'm sure the kampong 50 years ago, most of the time was just talking. Is that right? And that's having a good life. But now we're too busy with through mobiles and deadlines, and it's not so good. So it's strange that something that is so natural to us and so easy and so enjoyable has become almost forgotten. And the reason why it's forgotten is that we've been deceived by those who tell us that if we become cogwheels in the big money-making machine of some bank somewhere else, we'll be really happy. It's not so simple.